What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Shoot the Gap, the IDP Fantasy Football podcast here at Fantasy and Frames. This week I got JT, I got Steve. What's going on, gentlemen? Steve, I'll start with you.
Hey, nothing much. You guys heard Ozzy Osbourne died?
The Prince of Darkness himself is no longer with us. Yeah, that is. You know what I think is odd? I've seen more often than not, tweets and like postings, not of like memorial videos or whatnot, or like tributes or whatnot, like Little Nicky, video clips. Like they're just popping up everywhere, and I'm just like, damn, that's a movie from the early 2000s, or late 90s, but that's what we're going with. That's how we're honoring him. But I mean, it is what it is. But
a lot of people don't know this. Like before he died, he gave his faith back to God. Like that was the thing. I had to explain to my kids. I'm like, no, he's not the guy that eats bats. That's old Ozzy. Ozzy left this world better than he found it, believe me. But yeah, what great. I wish Gary Davenport was here right now, because we had so many good little twists and good little puns for the music. He gave us so much great rock and roll, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that his last concert was a couple weeks ago, and I forget what debilitating disorder he had. Was it Parkinson's or something along those lines, where they had to actually create like a customized chair for him to sit in to do all the songs and to sit there the entire concert. And the fact that he prepped for so long, he said in an interview afterwards, to be able to physically do this. And then a couple weeks later he passes away. I mean,
Parkinson's.
The guy was always destined to be a rock star, but I think he turned into a better human being. So it's definitely truly, a big loss for everybody in the entertainment and in the music industry, losing Ozzy Osbourne yesterday. But on that note, let's turn this into a positive here. We got Aiden in the chat. He's like, hey, what's up, guys? Glad to be here tonight. What's up, Aiden? Looking forward to seeing you guys in Fourth and Frames, where you guys talk about the AFC South. We got Jamie in the chat. What's up, all you sexy people? And Steve, come on. Wow. Firing shots already there, Jamie. Go to the strip club. You feel a lot better. Still
trying to make it up to me for the Scott Fishbowl fiasco. Scott Fishbowl is retweeting Jamie's tweets. Can we talk about that a second? That's a big deal. That's better than the president landing on a helicopter asking to join my fantasy football league. But Jamie's got a couple things coming up. Jamie's got a Scott Fishbowl mock draft for the Rabbit, as I told you, our Rabbit promo.
Yeah.
And then he also has, do you guys remember the quarterback, the Raiders quarterback, the one that played during when Bo Jackson was on that team? Do you remember the Todd Maravich?
Was it Schrader or Maravich?
Oh, yeah, it was Schrader the starter, but Todd Maravich is the name I was going to say.
Oh,
remember Todd Maravich?
Marinovich, right?
He's coming on the show. Jamie got him to come on the show to talk about his book. So we got him. Yeah, no, that's a big fish. So
yeah,
I was going to tell y'all when we were going to, go around the.
If you guys have never seen the documentary about him, it's wild. It's wild. I started collecting rookie cards in like 1991, I think, and that was one of my first rookie cards. I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be a big deal, because I don't know if you know. He was supposed to be like the next big quarterback. He's like, that's why if anybody hasn't seen the documentary, his dad was like a crazy fanatic, like athletic, like trainer. He like built this kid's whole life to be an NFL quarterback. It's wild. It's a wild story. He was
the first born in the lab, thing, the one they used to say. But yeah, the Raiders were loaded. Howie Long, Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen. I remember this team. It was loaded. It was one QB away. And if he can just put it all together. And we're going to have him come on the show, and he's going to talk about his new book. And, of course, I'm going to have questions. So I'm really excited. Jamie put that together. Jamie, you are an asset to this fantasy community if you don't hear that enough. I know you don't get to talk on your show, but please keep doing what you're doing.
That is freaking awesome. Jamie, congratulations on pulling that. Looking forward to seeing that episode. JT, what's going on with you, man? Haven't talked to you for a little bit. Everything good with you?
Yeah, football practice is underway. So us guys in the young spaces, my son's 6th grade tackle football team, we started practice week. Oh my gosh, it was 110 out today in Illinois.
Oh, wow.
Brutal. So if I look like I'm a little shiny, it's because I got home from practice like 10 minutes ago, took a shower, and then I'm still like the water and the sweat combined. It's like it's brutal. So day 3 of practice. So learning all the drills. I gave the kids the overview of the defense. I'm the defense coordinator, so showed them today. All of them were looking at me like I was talking in another language because they didn't understand what I was saying. But I was like, we'll go over this again. Don't worry. So installing the defense, doing all that. Went and saw the Lumineers last night in Indianapolis.
Ooh. Love the Lumineers.
Fantastic show. Fan-freaking-tastic show. They got some shows upcoming. Most of them are sold out, but if you get a chance to see them, definitely go check them out. It was my Christmas present to my girlfriend. We had phenomenal seats. We paid for it, but they were phenomenal. We were about 5 rows center off. It was great. We had a great time. And the crazy thing is, with Ozzy dying yesterday, we were on the way to Indy to the show, and one of the stations we pulled up as we're kind of flipping through, all Ozzy. They played all Ozzy the whole way. Tribute to him was great. Another crazy little side bit. Wild that he died because I just bought tickets last week. His guitar player in Ozzy Osbourne, Zach Wild. Anybody doesn't know Zach Wild, just one of the most elite metal guitar players of all time. Played guitar for Ozzy. He is in Black Label Society. It's his own band on top of just his Zach Wild stuff. He is doing called Zach Sabbath, where he is going and doing all the Sabbath stuff. They're coming to Illinois just down the street from me, like to campus, U of I campus, in November. And I went and bought tickets last week. And now I'm like, oh, this show, I'm glad I already bought tickets. This show's going to sell out in no time now that people realize Ozzy's gone. Like, he's playing the Zach Sabbath where he's the lead singer and they play all the Sabbath songs and everything else. I'm super stoked for it. It's going to be awesome. It's a super small venue, too, like 200-person venue. It's going to be lights out. I'm super stoked for it.
Oh, my God. That sounds freaking amazing. I almost went to go see The Offspring this past weekend at yeah, almost.
Old school Offspring fan. I love the Offspring. In junior high, it was like my all-time favorite band.
Junior high time.
Love the Offspring.
Yeah, Bad Habit. Yeah, that all that. Yeah, that was a great. Gotta love the Offspring.
I'm a little jealous. You guys have more of a social life than me, especially Jorge, who has a baby.
I said, well, no, that's exactly my point. I said I almost went, but then the real life kicked in, and my wife's like, "You going to a concert tonight?" No, you're not. So that put the kibosh on that. But no, man, everybody, we're excited to be here tonight. We're going to be talking about the IDPs out of the AFC West heading into 2025. Next week is a big week here at Fantasy and Frames because we're going to be dropping all of our division previews. So basically, what does that mean for you? You head over to fantasyandframes.com. You're going to see in the morning, or for example, our AFC East divisional preview Monday morning. Okay, well, our AFC East IDP divisional preview, Monday afternoon, and we're just going to be going back to back to back until we cover all 8 divisions here, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to get a lot of info about before the Fantasy Football Expo. Speaking of which, Steve, you and myself and Gary and a bunch of other people are going to be taking part in the IDP panel at the Fantasy Football Expo. And this is going to be, Fantasy and Frames has been running this for like years and years. And so we're going to be doing things a little bit different. We're going to give you some kind of insight into more of just the ins and outs of IDP. We're going to be talking about, coaching changes and what does that mean for players. We're talking about values, overvalued players, underrated players, so on and so forth. So we're going to have a lot of information coming your way for those going to the Fantasy Football Expo and wanting to get some extra knowledge for your IDP leagues this coming year. Before we get into all that, got a couple things to go through. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Trophy Smack. They reached out to me last week and they said, "Hey, we'd like to send you some merch if you wouldn't mind, showing it on your show and doing a plug or whatnot." I'm like, yeah. So they're sending me this big championship belt. That's not the awesome part. Obviously, I'm going to show off the belt, company man, right? But what's really cool is they gave me a promo code called it's Fantasy and Frames 10, the number 10. Anything on Trophy Smack's website, you use that promo code, you get 10% off. So definitely, with the draft season coming up, you want to get your draft boards, get 10% off. Use Fantasy Frames 10. You want to get a new trophy for your league. You want to get a championship belt for your league, so on and so forth. You want to get banners. They got banners. They got, metal posters. They got all sorts of crazy stuff over at Trophy Smack. It's just really amazing, the good stuff they do over there. So Fantasy and Frames 10 get 10% off, as well as, we've been talking about this a lot. The Fast Draft app. You can play these best ball drafts, 6 rounds, except for the Rabbit, which I believe is like 15. And of course, I'm referring to the game, the Rabbit there, 15 rounds, I believe. You play their D-Up game, which is their IDP focus one, which is 88% full now. So people really,
wow.
Yeah,
I need to jump on that. I got to get on that tonight. Remind me. I got to get on that after the show.
Well, if you haven't, JT, already, and for those who haven't already signed up, if you use the promo code Frames, you get a $50 match, or get a match up to $50 deposit, and you can play any type of these games. They got the D-Up game, the Rabbit going on currently. They have the
90% full, Jorge.
Yeah, I jumped in the Rabbit. I got an offensive Rabbit. It was sweet. Like I told people last time, if you sign up, be ready to roll, people. Be ready to roll. They fire that thing up the second it's full. Be ready to roll on those. I want to get on the IDP one. That's the one I got to get in.
It's almost full, both of them. On that note, Jorge, if I may, Jamie's running another show. We're going to use the Scott Fishbowl Rabbit because that just opened today. Right. And we're going to need bodies. We're going to need people because he wants to do a live. Jorge likes these too. I don't know how you are, JT. I like to have stuff pre-recorded, like I already have the map of the board, but he wants to do it live on air. You know how much you got to have like all those people ready to go. So if anybody wants that, message Jorge, message me if you want in the chat. We will.
I'll jump in on that with you guys.
Yeah, please do, because you know how it is out here. All we are is extension one another, having the bodies. But Jamie wants to do that because Scott Fish retweeted it. Even though the contest is almost over, you still give to the Fantasy Cares. It's a big deal. So shout out to you, Jamie, again. This is Jamie's show so far. I should just let Jamie talk.
I know, seriously. And what's really bumming me out here is this comment right here. He's like, I'm not going to make the Expo this year. That saddens me, my friend. I wish we would have seen each other again this year. But
Jorge, look at the next comment.
Oh, won't. Just kidding. Okay, well, fine.
I was hoping there was a next comment because I just bought him a shirt. You know what I mean? I just went online and got the shirt. I'm like, he could have told me that 3 minutes ago, but you know.
Yeah, thank you for JT. Thank you, JT, for bringing that up because I still look like a dumbass, so who cares? But anyhow, now that we got all that out of the way, let's talk about some non-dumbass related things. Let's talk about some IDPs in the AFC West, and let's start with the Los Angeles Chargers. There's a lot of talk with the Chargers on offense. What are they going to do at running back? Who's going to be the best wide receiver on the team? Is it Ladd McConkey? Is it Trey Harris? Well, let's tell you about the defensive players you should be considering here in our must-bust and sleeper segment here. So with the Chargers, Steve, why don't you start us off here? Who are some musts or a must for the Los Angeles Chargers?
So I'm on a crazy train, and I'm barking at the moon here, okay? I have not one, but two for you. I have something new and something old. One of these players, it's a slight hot take, depending on who you talk to. The other one is a public service announcement. So I'm going to let you two gentlemen choose. Do you want me to do the hot take or the public service announcement? But I have two musts. Which one do you want me to do first?
Let's get the people warmed up with the public service announcement, and then we'll go hot take.
Okay, so my must-have is Deion Henley, okay? He is my guy for tackle-heavy leagues. Where the public service announcement comes in. Be careful how you draft him, how you process this. Yes, he got 147 tackles, but not so much on impact scoring. So if you're in a big play league, he only had 1 sack, 1 pick last year. So my public service announcement is context does matter. If I'm in big 3 scoring, do not take him as a top 5 off the board. It's just not going to work out well for you. But tackle heavy, he's your guy. So the way I have it broke down, yeah, he's a top 10 in your tackle heavy. He's a top 17-esque, big play. 7 spots, that matters. Context does matter. So be careful where you want to put him. Just caution to the wind. He's a box tackler. That's what you need in the majority of leagues that we all play in. But Deion Henley is my first guy off the board.
Yeah, looking at Big 3 scoring, finished last year as the LB 38.
Careful.
Yep, that's a very good. That's a very good point there. All right, well, that's your. I love that. By the way, we saw him finally break out in his third year last year. The linebacking position was just kind of shaky, but that being the case, there may be a sleeper at the LB position. I'll get to in a second. Love that pick there.
Henley was going in the draft. Was 2 years ago, was one of my favorite sleepers. I loved him out of Washington State. He did a little bit everything. You didn't know 100% if he was going to play strong safety or linebacker coming out of college. They moved him around a little bit, but man, I love the talent. He was one of my favorite guys. I got him in a lot of dynasty spots, but I have to be honest, I didn't hold long enough in a couple of spots where I got a little desperate and I had to drop him, and I regret it. I regret it big time because he really busted out last year. I think he's going to just be even better this year.
All right. Well, if that is your public service announcement, what is your quote unquote hot take here, Steve?
So it depends on who you talk to. Okay. Because like Derwin James is my second player. Some people are still in on Derwin James, like Fantasy Pros has him as like a top 3 defensive back. But there's other people, good analysts that you and I know, that have been saying to fade James for quite a while now. You know, if you listen to these people, there's 2 camps on James. There's, oh, I love James. Oh, I don't. You know, the coverage grades haven't been that well. You know, some people will say fade him like he's an expired milk carton, you know, hey, he's slowing down, they'll whisper to you. Or some of them are ballsy enough to be yelling like on the top of a pyramid saying, hey, you know, like it's an ancient prophecy. With the emergence of Deion Henley, like we just talked about, there's not much, you know, space for him to be soaking up tackles. And rightfully so. There's proof in the pudding, rightfully so, because last year was his first year. He didn't have 100 tackles. That was the first time since 2019. And rightfully so. He's getting a little older. Like I said, I guess I understand the logic about fading him, but it's still Derwin James. And this is why I'm not fading him, and this is why he's still a must for me. He's still a DB1 for me, and I'm okay leaving him in my lineups because it's the way they're using him now that they have that middle kind of filled up. He's been playing a lot all over the field. He's been playing in the slot, and they've been blitzing him from the slot. Last year, he had a career year, 5 sacks. So sure, there may be a little bit more regression on the other side of the ball, but he's playing box, he's playing pass, he's playing blitz. Not too many players have all of that diversity for me, so sign me up for that. I'm still making him a must everywhere I go, and I get it why some people are hesitant, but I'm still drafting him. We're in the FF7 contest now, Jorge, me and you. We're in different leagues, of course, but yeah, I got him, I want to say he went DB7. I'm like, these people are crazy. I'm taking the value there. So I got him later, and I'm still going to get DB1 value at him, just differently than we've seen in seasons past.
Love it. JT, who is a bust, or who are some busts here for you for the Chargers?
You're going to talk about a sleeper in a moment who is probably my favorite guy on this team, to be honest with you. But because of him and because of Henley, the guy that's a bust for me, Denzel Perryman. You know, he got some time last year. If you go back, you look through the stats, you might be tempted to take an outside shot on him. I think he fades away this year. I think he's clear-cut their backup. I just don't believe that unless an injury occurs, I just don't think he sees a ton of snap shares here. So for me, Denzel Perryman is the guy that I'm probably out on. I would probably not be looking to draft him in almost any league unless it's a deep, deep league where I'm taking a shot on any linebacker who might eventually see playing time. That's it. Super deep leagues is the only time I'm taking him. I'm out on him for that reason. He's the biggest guy I'm out on. A guy out I will take if he drops, but I'm not overdrafting him, is Khalil Mack. So Khalil Mack, I still think he's got some gas in the tank. I think he's still going to be good. What we saw last year, couple monster games, and then there was times he disappeared. So he had some huge ones. Khalil Mack right now might be one of the best ball guys to have in IDP because he will get you those games. He'll have a week or two where he wins you the week. but he's just not going to be super, super consistent. I will still take Khalil Mack. I'm not out on him completely if he falls. If I can draft him in the right spot, I'm taking him. But again, we're like early 30s Khalil Mack. We're not the super young superstar that he used to be. Still like him, but I want to draft him accordingly. Perryman, on the other hand, I just think he's behind Henley, and I think he's behind your sleeper candidate, so I'm out on Perryman.
Nope, that makes a lot of sense. We got a question in the chat here over on YouTube. Chris Lorenzo, welcome to Shoot the Gap. He says Khalil Mack or Alex Highsmith. Steve, immediate thought here.
Me, it's Highsmith. I'm actually big on Highsmith this year. He's, once all the top tier 1 guys go off the board, he was a pressuring monster last year, and he's always great against the run. So I have high regard for Highsmith. I probably am a little higher than most people, so maybe I'm biased, but that would be who I'm taking. Mack, to JT's point, I'll take a shot on him, when people are fading him. But Highsmith is a target. Mack is more of a stream if I see him.
Nice. All right. Well, to JT's point, the sleeper that I'll be talking about here is second-year linebacker Junior Colson out of the University of Michigan, 3rd-round pick. Played with under Harbaugh's defense his last year in college. Look, the guy, if you want to look at his PFF grades, which again we have said many times on the show, and I'm sure on various shows, that yes, they give you a lot of information, but they don't give you all the information. And so if you look at his PFF grades, just piss poor across the way. There's no sugarcoating that. But the dude battled like an appendectomy, like in training camp, and then had like ankle injuries and issues that got him on IR. Like he was just beat to crap. And so like you can only imagine like how productive can you actually be when you're fighting so much physically. The thing I like about him as far as being a sleeper is, to what JT was kind of alluding to, is Denzel Perryman is highly inefficient. Like he has a missed tackle rate of like 20% last year, just atrocious. Now I was, when researching for Colson, there was like a beat reporter who put something out today that said, the sleeper of this team could be somebody who's not starting. And I'm like, oh, go on. And so apparently they've been saying, Denzel Perryman, the first couple of days of camp has been really, establishing himself as the LB2, and I'm like, don't drink the Kool-Aid, folks. He's like, and look at the key phrasing. He's starting off camp looking that way. I'm just like, yeah, that's not going to finish that way. So again, if you go look at the PFF stats from Colson's rookie year, not great. But again, like I just said, he was battling injuries. If you go back to his last year in college, though, per PFF amongst all linebackers in all of college football, he was the 5th best rated tackling linebacker that was draft eligible last year. His final year, he had a 15.5% tackle rate. We like to say double-digit tackle rates are where it's at. You get into the mid-teens and higher, in the 20s, you're super elite. Had only a 3.8% missed tackle rate. Had an average depth of tackle of 4 yards downfield, so he wasn't allowing big plays to happen before he made a tackle, aka he was a good player. And he played well in coverage also. So he has that 3-down role. Basically, that's why they drafted him. They wanted him to be that 3-down guy. They weren't sure if Henley was going to make the jump in year 3. Fortunately, they did. And now I think you could have by mid-season, towards the end of the season, 2 viable LB1s or LB1, LB2 linebackers for your fantasy league and tackle heavy scoring. To Steve's point, again, for leagues that emphasize more big play, you have to be careful with this, obviously. But the fact that Colson does play well in coverage, leans himself to being somebody that could potentially even surpass Henley just because of his coverage abilities. But that's more hot takey than anything else. I will say though, Colson definitely somebody, if you have a deep bench for your redraft league, I would add him. Maybe in the
22 years old, Jorge.
Yeah, he's going to be dirt cheap because people are going to be focusing on Henley, and they probably will be focused on the name of Perryman.
If he hits 22 years old, you got to.
I have to be honest. Here. I love Junior Colson. He was my defensive rookie for Dynasty. He was my number 1 last year. I know there was a ton of good line DNs. I mean, Jared Verse had a great year. Latu, we saw some really nice guys out there. Going into the draft in a tackle-heavy league, Junior Colson was my number one rookie I wanted. Had some injuries, had to have some surgery at the beginning of the year, got him behind. He just never really got caught up kind of till the end of the year. He is the perfect example of a buy low from a guy who didn't hit his rookie year for various reasons that is going to be way cheaper this year than he was last year. But I still love him. I think Junior Colson can be an absolute stud in this league. Like Steve just said, 22 years old. The guy was the leader of one of the best defenses I've ever watched in that Michigan National Championship team defense. He was the team captain. He made every tackle. He was efficient as could be on that national championship team. I absolutely loved him. I couldn't believe he fell as far as he did in the draft. I thought it was crazy. And then go to the Chargers with Harbaugh, obviously as head coach for Michigan, I thought was the perfect landing spot. It just didn't hit last year. I think it hits this year. I think he hits this year. I like him a ton. If I'm in a startup IDP league or even a redraft league, I'm just buying my time. I'm just sitting there waiting until he drops me later in the draft because people forgot about him. He's going to be a stud. I'm telling you right now. And if someone crazily dropped him in your Dynasty IDP league, go grab him. Somebody dropped him last year in one of my leagues. I missed it, and another guy picked him up because he knew he was my favorite player. I was so angry that I did not get him off the waiver wire. I would have spent my whole budget if I would have saw I missed it by a day. Like somebody dropped it. He picked him up like right away, like the very next night, and I didn't see it. I was so angry. So if somebody's done that in your league and dropped him because he was bad last year and didn't play, if they're just looking at stats and they don't really know who he is, go get Junior Colson. He is an absolute beast.
Absolutely. All right, let's head to the Mile High City, talking about the Denver Broncos here. JT, who is a must for you from the Denver Broncos?
I mean, the guy that came out of nowhere last year and just every week you thought, we're doing plays and fades on Fantasy and Frames. And we're like, is he a play again? Do you just keep staying with him as a play? And that's Nick Bonito. He just had a monster year. They finally cleared out space. He was in that rotation there that the Broncos like to use at defensive end, outside linebacker. But, man, he just sack every week. He was just piling up sacks. Monster season for Benito. The question is, can he do it again? I actually think he can. 13 and a half sacks last year for this guy. 48 tackles, 4 pass defense. He had a pick, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 2 defensive touchdowns. He was a big play monster last year for you in IDP. I think he's going to be good again. They made room for him. They moved Browning. He then, at the second half of the year, got all the snaps, and he proved that he was definitely worthy of all the snaps. Nick Bonito, I still think is underrated right now. Yeah. I still think if you go look at like boards, average draft position, where he's coming off the board, it's too low. It's too low, especially in Dynasty. If you're in a startup IDP Dynasty, it's way too low. But even in redraft, he's too low. I love Bonito. Jump on board before everybody else realizes that last year wasn't a fluke and that this is something he can do every year. And the crazy thing is, this Broncos defense has just gotten better. They've just gotten better. I think this is going to be an elite unit this year. If you're you're in a draft, like just draft defense, like old school, draft the defense, not IDP, but just draft the defense. Broncos might be the team I want this year. If you're just drafting a defense, I love this group.
Love it. All right, let's get into a bust. And this was hard, guys. Trying to find a bust here was very difficult because when you look at rankings for PFF last year, this defense for the Denver Broncos was ranked 4th overall, 5th in pass rushing, 7th in coverage, 11th in run defense. Okay, so that's their Achilles heel. What they do, they got rid of they got rid of Josie Jewell, who unfortunately has, I think, is a concussion now in Carolina. which is, we'll get to that when we talk about the NFC South. But they brought in Dre Greenlaw. You look at they brought in Talanoa Hufanga from San Francisco. You look at Fantasy Pro scoring last year, the DL5 in points per game, Nick Benito. The DL21 in points per game, defensive tackle Zach Allen. The DL25 in points per game, Jonathan Cooper. The LB3 in points per game, although he only played in 3 games because of the ACL, Alex Singleton. The DB7 in points per game, Brandon Jones. Who the hell is a bust on this goddamn defense? That was the question I was having when I was researching everything. And the only reason I am saying the person I'm about to say is the fact of the matter is pathway to the most efficient snaps. And that is going to be Brandon Jones, because currently, as it's listed right now on various depth charts, wherever you're looking, it has Brandon Jones moving back from a box role to more of a free safety coverage role. And you have the newly signed Talanoa Hufanga from the San Francisco 49ers taking over those box role duties. I was reading, seriously, it's hard for me to say this because I'm such a huge fan of Brandon Jones coming over from Miami and what he did last year. A great run stopping defensive back. And one of the things I've been reading about between the two is they both are very good at switching their roles. Defensive coordinators, whenever they are on the field, it's technically you're a free safety, but we're going to have you rush to the running back and we're going to have you creep up to the line of scrimmage. Just because it says you're a coverage safety does not necessarily mean I'm going to strictly use you as a coverage safety. I think the defensive coordinator for the Broncos wants to maximize basically where their strengths lie. And that is problematic because now it's one of those things where it's who do I go? If I'm looking at a draft, who am I getting? And so for the fact that we could have a situation where both of these defensive backs, both of these safeties could be splitting tackle opportunities because they're going to be used interchangeably in both a coverage and a box role, I feel like they kind of eat into each other's productivity, especially when you already have, the linebacking core up front with Alex Singleton and Dre Greenlaw. Not much is going to be getting past those guys, right? So now you're going to have limited opportunities, who's going to be the guy. And based off of how Brandon Jones finished last year, I feel like he's going to be the bust in terms of the ADP, whereas I think Hufanga, people are going to remember, he's been dealing with injuries the past couple of years. He could be the value there amongst those defensive backs. So it's because of that ambiguity between the two. I'm going to go with Brandon Jones, and I hate doing that.
And Jorge, you also got to throw in here, it's even more muddled because of Jahdae Barron being
love
drafted.
him, by the way. Yeah.
So I love Jahdae Barron. When I saw him, the couple times I watched Texas this last year, he was elite. I tell you what, I really, as a Colts fan, I wanted Tyler Warren at tight end. But you know what? As it got closer to draft, I started talking myself into maybe we should take Jahdae Barron instead and then draft Mason Taylor in the second round. So I started leaning that. I mean, I think Jahdae Barron is an absolute stud. Now the question's gonna be, if you look at depth charts right now, they got him in the slot corner, which I love. I think that's a great spot for him. But I also think he's a guy that can play some of that box safety role. And so it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they move these guys around. I agree with you. I think Brandon Jones is great. I love Brandon Jones. He crushed for me last year. But you had Barron and Hufanga to this group. This defense is fantastic. But do these guys all cut into each other's production a little bit? That's where I would be worried, just like you said, for the price of where you're going to have to pay for Brandon Jones. That's where I'm worried because I think all three of those guys are really good, and I think all three can be used in different ways. So it's going to be really interesting early on in the season to see how the Broncos kind of use those three guys.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I agree with the Brandon Jones take because, context matters. Some safeties can get by if things change. Like Julian Love, like we talked about a couple episodes ago. He can play free. He can play box. He's going to get stats regardless. Brandon Jones, his main game is line of scrimmage tackling. Well, what happens to a safety when you get good linebackers there?
It goes down.
Exactly.
You eat up every tackle. You don't need to get all the tackles.
Yeah. No one like brings in Brandon Jones for his coverage ability. You know what I mean? Everybody's like, oh, look at the hit he made. Look at the tackle he made. So yeah, I can see him, especially at the price you got to pay for him right now. I don't know, but he's in that top DB category. I would fade Brandon Jones as well. So I think that's good, solid analysis. But yeah, I don't take DBs early much anyway. You know what I mean? I'm that guy, but yeah, I don't think I want much to do with Brandon Jones this year just because of all the other threats. It's a loaded defense.
Right. I mean, this defense, like taking a step back from IDP, just like this is probably going to be the closest this defense has looked to being elite since that Super Bowl caliber defense with Von Miller that led the Orange Crush. Thank you. This defense this is Sean Payton doing it right. Whatever he's doing over in Denver, getting this team on the defensive side of the ball, and just great stuff they're doing over there. What's up,
that
Angie?
was my favorite
in the chat.
Super Bowl bet of all time, by the way. Was I told everyone I knew take Von Miller Super Bowl MVP before that Super Bowl, because I said Peyton Manning doesn't have anything left. If the Broncos win this game, it's going to be a defensive guy that wins MVP. And I was like, Von Miller could be the guy. That was my favorite MVP call I ever had for a Super Bowl.
Jorge, I'm not doubting JT and his excellence, but does that feel like an Uncle Rico throwing the football into the mountain story? Or
a quick sidearm action. Exactly. Let's clip that scene right there and put it on TikTok. Before we get to Steve, your sleeper here, I want to tell everybody, stay tuned throughout the rest of the show, because yesterday I put out a tweet that the Fantasy and Frames Shoot the Gap IDP podcast listener league, that's a big mouthful, the Shoot the Gap listener league for 2025, there we go, was announced yesterday. We're doing an ESPN. I will be dropping the link into the YouTube chat. I'll be talking about it more, but before we get to that, let's get to Steve, your sleeper here for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's tough to find a sleeper on a loaded defense. But the way I tried to correlate this to the way I play IDP, and I'm sure if you guys don't, there's people in the audience that do this. I'm always going for those elite DLs, and I'm always going for those volume linebackers. So if you're like me, say your first 4 picks, the first 4 rounds of your draft, you're taking 3 linebackers, maybe 1 DL, or the first 5 rounds of your draft, you're taking 4 LBs, 1 DL. If you got a build like that, if you do that, I'm always looking for my DL2 that I can draft as a DL3. You know what I mean? I'm looking for that DL2 fringe, DL1 upside. I'm always trying to target that because, sometimes the way the drafts shake out. Well, there's a guy on the Broncos, and that's exactly what he is. He's a DL2 price or statistics, but you can get him at the price of a DL3. He plays alongside opposite end of Nick Bonito, so he gets all the attention. But Jonathan Cooper is underrated as a sleeper. He was a 7th round pick, unknown. He was successful 2023, so then they let him have at it in 2024. Came back as a starter, played the whole year. And here's what I like, Jorge. 20 QB hits, 10.5 sacks, 50-plus tackles, 58 tackles. He only missed 1 the entire year. You're getting 50-plus tackles and all of those sacks out of your DL2, and you got them way later, and you got all the linebackers in your draft, you're probably going to win that league. Of metrics that hasn't been talked enough, defensive linemen, 70% or more snaps. That's kind of what I'm looking for these days. And this guy peaks at 71%. So he has everything I want. He finished 2024 as DL19, and then he finished his DL20 in 2023. That's both Fantasy Pro scoring, and that's both 1-2-3 scoring. So, long story short, here's a dependable DL2 that you can draft way later. I believe right now his ADP was DL28, DL29. So he's very much under the radar. You can probably even get him later, right, JT? Probably get him later because people don't know the name.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's sneaky. For the production you can get out of him and the fact that you have Benito on the other side, who's most likely going to go higher, I think he's a guy that just people kind of forget about. And I think you can get a really nice price on him. To me, once I'm looking through those D linemen and I kind of see like, okay, guys start coming off the board, and I'm like, oh, am I ready to like jump in yet? I look down there a little ways. I'm like, oh, I could probably wait 2 more rounds and grab Cooper. I could probably grab another linebacker and then get Cooper later. So I think he's a great value right now.
Here's a take that maybe not for this show, but something we could explore later. Is it just me or we are spoiled right now? This is a generation of elite defensive linemen. Like I can go 15 deep probably. Like I don't have to. Remember when we first started playing, it was like that elite tight end. Now there's a whole bunch of them that I can kind of get later on and just plug in my volume linebackers. But yeah.
It seems because the league has come more pass heavy and because they've now gone to more edge rushers, so those guys are less playing like, oh, okay, old school defensive linemen, playing like a 4-3. Those old school, like they're holding their position, holding the edge, and not letting anybody get around them. That's not what these guys do anymore. These guys are see quarterback, go get quarterback. And so they're much better as far as IDP scoring statistics. There's just so many more guys that score than they did a couple years ago. Like you said, it's almost exactly like tight end, where there was like a couple guys that scored at tight end, then it was like, it was like the desert after that. Well, D end, I remember a couple years ago, like if you didn't have one of the top 10 guys, you were just like, am I even going to get you points this week? And now it's like we are seeing a lot more depth. Because a couple years ago, if you didn't go in on DN like almost right away, you were just out of luck. You
needed like the top 7 or you were screwed, and then everything else was like a plug and play. Just right now, we did this on the Brian Burns podcast, and we were talking about that division. But if you want to go like back end tier 1 and tier 2, I can name like 10 right now: Brian Burns, Josh Hines-Allen, Daniel Hunter, Greg Rousseau, Jonathan Greener, and so forth and so forth. Nick, but you can go all the way down and still get DL1 value. So this is one of those good years. And then I kind of like the next tier, the Jonathan Cooper tier, with guys like that I can sneak in as a fringe D1, D2. So maybe that's a cheat code this year. I'm pretty sure somebody's league somewhere are going to be loaded up front with linebackers and, DB spread in between there and some sleepers like Jonathan Cooper just for depth.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And what really helps with these defensive linemen also nowadays is like, so for so long, our thought process was, okay, are they getting you enough sacks or are they not getting you enough sacks? And it's like, well, this is how we're valuing defensive linemen. It's like, no, I'll take the tackles for a loss. I'll take the quarterback hits. You know what? Because those give me fantasy points too. So these are other things that people need to pay attention to, not just the sack numbers.
And then the way people are doing with the zone running and the cutbacks, those guys are able to rush the passer, but they're also able to make backside tackles a lot. So we're getting a lot more defensive end making tackles where, the old school is like, okay, we're praying for double-digit sacks, and if we don't get double-digit sacks, like, are we getting 20 tackles a season? 25? If we're lucky? Now we can get those guys could get 50 or 60 tackles, which is huge.
Tackles for loss, but also, I'm looking at guys 50-plus tackle in the next tier, the Harold Landry's, the Brian Burns, those guys, But, yeah, that's an excellent point you just made.
All right, let's go to Sin City. Let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'll give you my must. And, we're talking about elite defensive linemen heading into this season. Currently in my redraft rankings for IDP defensive lineman, he's my DL1. He had a little bit of a down year last year because of the ankle injury, but I'm not scared off from Max Crosby. Angie, I hope you're in the chat. She asked me yesterday, sorry for putting this out there, Angie, but she asked me a great question. Should I trade? Basically, it's a keeper league. And if I made a trade, Max Crosby would be my sole keeper, and all I had to give away is a linebacker. Would you make this trade? And I'm like, absolutely, smash accept. Max Crosby is the truth. He gets you quarterback hits. He gets you tackles for a loss. He gets you sacks. Last year, he finished as the DL4 in fantasy points per game. In 23, he had the DL2, DL1 in 22. Like I said, last year, he had an ankle injury. It slowed his production a little bit. When we look at pressures, in 2024, he was 38th. Not great. He only got you 54 total pressures last year. And again, when you're the only, edge rusher, for lack of a better, example, on your team that is worth, anything, people are going to be double teaming you. And so you're not exactly going to be seeing a lot of one-on-one opportunities. But even the fact that he, still got 8 sacks on the season last year with the bad angle facing all these double teams just kind of speaks to how good he is. You go back to when he was healthy in pressures in 2023, 94 pressures, the 4th most amongst edge rushers. 2022, 81, 3rd most amongst edge rushers. And what makes Max Crosby so amazing as somebody that people should consider him to be a number 1 overall defensive lineman in their drafts is Malcolm Kuntz. Malcolm Kuntz, the opposite defensive edge for the Las Vegas Raiders. I was really high on him a couple seasons ago. You go back to the 23 season, weeks 14 through 18. That's when you started to see his snap percentage go up past 50%. Fantasy Pro scoring, he was averaging 14 points per game. He actually led during that time the duo of Kuntz and Crosby in sacks. So, the pressures were there, the sacks were there, the fantasy production was there, and I was all aboard Malcolm Kuntz. He's going to be my next guy since Carl Granderson, one of my other favorite guys from back in the day. And he got hurt and he missed all of last year, but now he's back, he's healthy, and everybody is just raving about what they're seeing out of him. And so now you're going to get this edge rusher who can get the pressures, who can handle the blocking assignments, gets the win rate. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're freeing up Max Crosby to be even more dominant than he already has been. Like, obviously he's a must, right? But he is, in my opinion, the must amongst all defensive linemen.
I love Crosby. I think Kuntz coming back on the other side is going to help big time on him. I also, and I'm going to talk about this in my segment, but this secondary is not good. I think teams are going to throw at this team constantly. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to have a lot of pass rushing opportunities. I mean, a lot. This team, if you look the way this team is built up front, they've got run stoppers, but their secondary is not good. I think everybody is going to come out attacking this secondary, and I think it's going to give Crosby and Kuntz a ton of pass rush opportunities for hits, pressures, tackles for losses, sacks. I like it a lot. I think this defense is by far the worst defense in this division. If I have to be honest with you, I just think everybody else is really strong, and this team's not terrible. They're just next to these other teams. They're not anywhere in the same realm. So I think this is a team that is going to be fighting, even if they're down in games, where you think that would mean teams are going to run on you constantly. I think teams are going to constantly throw at this team. So I think there's going to be a lot of pass rush opportunities.
Any extra thoughts there for Max Crosby, or is it pretty cut and dry there with how good he has the potential to be this year there, Steve?
Yeah, the Raiders are always the Raiders until they otherwise show us they're not, but like JT was saying, I got him as a bottom tier defense too. Weak secondary, tackling woes. I don't think I have much to add on that. Just I like Malcolm Kuntz as a prospect. I think that's why I got this next bust coming up. I got it more only because it's a rotation. With the exception of Crosby, he's the only absolute we have. I think everyone else is going to be in somewhat of a rotation.
All right, so let's get into it. Who is your bust here for the Las Vegas Raiders?
Okay, I have Christian Wilkins as my bust. And the reason I put him as a bust, remember 2023 when he signed, everyone was drooling over this because the Raiders didn't have anything, outside of Crosby. You know what I mean? So now we have Kuntz back and he's emerging, and we've seen Adam Butler, what he can do last year. And then we also have Tyrese Wilson. He's playing DT now. So I don't really have much faith for Wilkins, especially where you had to trade him or where you're drafting him at. So I think he's more of within this rotation. And then plus add the fact he's a DT. I mean, how many leagues do we have besides MFL that were actually like targeting DTs. I could think of 15 other DTs that I want. So it's just so crazy how after 1 year, what 1 year can do, and how our thoughts have changed from we want them to let's push back a little bit. So I can see him busting.
You mentioned defensive tackles, how many leagues there are. Well, you know what? I'm dropping the Shoot the Gap listener league information into the chats right now. We will get to that. JT, who is your sleeper here for the Raiders as we're getting ready to close out the show with the Chiefs last?
Yeah, so my sleeper here, and again, this goes to what I talked about. I think this is a really bad secondary. The one guy I love is Jeremy Chin. And I love Jeremy Chin because I think he's perfect for a terrible secondary. This guy could absolutely rack up stats this year on this team. I really think so. I literally just took in round 12 of FF7s. I just took Jeremy Chin, who on Sleeper counts as linebacker or DB. So short bench people, you're in a league with short benches. He's nice. He can play in 2 spots. So remember that. I think Jeremy Chin can have a monster year. So good bounce back year last year after the injury the year before for the Commanders, was top 15 in almost every type of IDP scoring wherever you looked at. He was top 15 for defensive backs. If you look what they've done here on this team, I already talked about the secondary. It's not great. I'm going to read this off to you, and if you don't know these guys, you won't be the only people who don't know these guys. Darnay Holmes, Eric Stokes, Isaiah Palomau, and Darren Porter. Those are the rest of the secondary with Jeremy Chin. Every quarterback in this division is going to just eat these guys alive. So I think Jeremy Chin is going to rack up stats. He plays in the box. He plays like a linebacker. And here's the other thing, the reason I like him. Alonzo Roberts, Jermaine Pratt is the two linebackers. They don't have a ton of cash. They don't have a ton of cover skills. Roberts is going to play early downs. I love him. He plays hard. He's a stud. Puts his nose in there, but he can't cover anybody. So I think there's a ton of chance that they play like a ton of DBs, and Chin ends up playing closer to the line on like 5 or 6 defensive back sets where he ends up being the 1 or 2 linebacker in this group. That's why I love him. I think he could stack tackles this year big time.
To co-sign what you're saying, this is something I wrote a couple weeks ago, actually, on the 14th. So Jeremy Chin in 2024, he had a bounce back year in Washington, 107 tackles. That's DB 16, 1, 2, 3 scoring, right? He's replacing who? Trayvon Mooring, right? Who himself had a bounce back in 2024 with 104 tackles, but he had some impact plays. So he was DB 13, 1, 2, 3 scoring. So to your point, the guy is coming from here to go to here to do the same exact thing. So I feel that too. I think this is Chin's best landing spot possible.
All right, let's get into the last team here for the AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs. JT, real quick, who is your must?
This one we're going to have a little debate about. I can't get off the train. I know he's gone a little high for some people. He's fallen down a few people's rankings, but I still love him. He's my boy, my Mizzou guy. Nick Bolton is still up there for me. Still super young. He had just a couple monster years and it's a little bit of step back with some injuries and some things. So there's some people that kind of, down on him a bit, but I love Bolton. He was still, even with the injuries, everything that happened, for the year before, he played all year last year, even though people weren't sure about it. He was a top 15 guy in most scoring formats for Dynasty. He's still only 25 years old. He's only 25. It feels like he's been there forever because he has. He's already been there 5 years, but he's only 25, former second-round pick. People are, he had that monster, like 180 tackle season in his second year. So there's still some people like oh, he's disappointing because of that. I mean, that year was insane. I still think he bounces back. He's a 120 plus tackle guy. If he can throw in a couple sacks in there and a couple, maybe a forced fumble, interception into the mix, I still like him. I'm buying the dip. I do think some people are out on him. I know Steve has got something to say about this, so we'll talk about it here. But I'm still on my boy Nick Bolton, my Mizzou guy. He's one, and again, I probably got the blinders on. He's one of my favorite players that ever went to Mizzou. So as a Mizzou fan, he's my guy. I love Nick Bolton. I'm still in on Nick Bolton.
Yeah, Bolton's definitely a polarizing figure. It's funny when you do ranks. You got your guys, you got these guys you like. Bolton's kind of on the middle. Like, what ground are you on? Are you on Nick Bolton stand? Are you on the north or the south of Nick Bolton stand here? The case against Bolton, yeah, he had that 180 tackle 2022 season, but you look at the rest of it: 112 in 2021. 60 in 2023, 106 in 2024. He's still getting volume. So I'm not knocking you're not going to get volume, but the question is he really good? Well, the pass rush grade, he finished 51.6, 147th amongst 189 qualifiers. So he doesn't pass rush. Can he tackle? Well, his run defense grade, 67.1, 85th out of 189 linebackers. So let's go over to coverage. Can he at least cover? Yeah, he can, barely, 66.1, 40th amongst 189 linebackers. So, again, he's getting the work. I'm not saying don't play him, but I don't think he's an LB1 these days. I think he's a guy drafted as an LB1. I think you can get LB2 production out of him. That's just my case. I think I would spend money somewhere else in a draft. And, again, you're not wrong. There's some analysts in North Korea on this, and we're in South Korea on this. Depends what stand you want to take, a Nick Bolton stand,
The winning stand, whichever side. All right, let me get to my bust here. And another linebacker here for the Chiefs. And this one's kind of perplexing that the snap counts are just the way they are. Talking about Leah Chanel. You go back to 2024. Nick Bolton, 941 snaps. Drew Tranquil, 798 snaps. Leo Chanel, 455 snaps, finished as the LB 77 in fantasy points per game. When you look at his metrics here, he plays well in coverage. Mm-hmm. He plays better than Bolton and Tranquil. Mm-hmm. In fact, he's more efficient of a tackler than both Tranquil and Bolton.
14th amongst 189 linebackers. Yes, sir.
So it's one of those things where you have to sit there and scratch your head, why is he only getting 400 snaps? And you look at what's going on. Well, Bolton is the defensive play caller, so he's not coming off the field, right? Tranquil, I believe they have a contract with him locked up through 26. So financially, there could be an out. I think I saw something on Spotrac about $1 million buyout. Don't quote me on that right now, but let's just say that it's money related. And so Chanel, I believe, is entering his fifth or sixth year. So he's wrapping up his initial deal. And that's the thing. He plays well when he's on the field, but they just don't use him that much on the field because I think they've invested so much into these older veterans that they just want to stay the course. And a lot of the things we talked about years ago was the Spagnuolo effect. Is why does he do what he does? And then people hey, shut up, don't question it, because you know what? He's up in the win Super Bowl. So whatever, he doesn't care about your IDP team. He cares about his real defensive team. So this is a situation where this is a player who should be good for IDP, but just isn't.
Yeah, and it's because he doesn't get the volume since 2022, since he came in the NFL. He doesn't get that Nick Bolton volume. We got to play these guys till the wheels fall off, right, yeah. JT?
Here's the best comparison for Chanel. He is the Jack Sanborn of the Chiefs. He's the third guy that should see way more playing time, but he doesn't because they play so many two linebacker sets that he is just the guy that is the odd man out. It's just like Jack Sanborn was for the Bears. Jack Sanborn should have been on the field a whole lot more for the Bears, and the metrics showed it. But they just played mostly two linebacker sets. So as the third linebacker, he was the guy that was the odd man out. If Chanel can get on a new team, I think he could crush. We already talked about it before. I love Jack Sanborn this year in Dallas. I think he could have a monster year in Dallas. Chanel, I think, is the exact same thing. He needs to go to a new team. because as long as those other two guys are in front of him, I think he's just in trouble. And it has nothing to do with him not being a good player. Like Jorge just said, just read off all the great things he's good at. He's just the odd man out in this group of a team that's going to play 4-2 and play nickel the entire time. He's just not going to get enough snaps because of it.
All right, let's get to our final category here. Let's talk about the sleeper here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll make it quick because, we've beat this one up on numerous shows. In fact, over at the Fantasy Six Pack, my year 2 breakouts just came out. You guys will appreciate that article because I talk about how 2 is better than 1. How the second album of a rock star's career is usually better than the first one. So I have a whole tangent on that. Wow. Guys, if you want to read this, check it out. I'll make it quick. The case for Jaden Hicks, because that's my sleeper, is real simple. He didn't play till week 10. When he went in, he blew it up. He only missed 1 tackle the whole season. He's a great candidate for a breakout because Justin Reed is now gone, and they haven't brought in anyone else, no real threats. And that's how I like to play my defensive backs. It's a musical chair rotation. The position is you're going to find guys like this every year. To JT's point in previous podcasts, target those 2-year rookie DBs because a lot of them are in optimal situations for success. But, yeah, that's who I got as my breakout. This whole team is kind of underrated because they're on a bend but don't break defense. But Jaden Hicks, man, his numbers were through the roof. Run defense and coverage grades were PFF over 70. Check him out. He's gonna have a full season this year to play. So that's who it is.
I love Jaden Hicks. Literally one of my, not just DBs, but one of my favorite sleepers this season. I think he's gonna crush. The box safety for this team has put up great stats the last 4 years. I think he's going to be great. He was my safety 3 coming out of the draft last year, and he didn't go the 4th round, which I thought was insanity. I could not believe he fell that far in the draft. I think he's going to crush. Just like Steve said, he was great down the stretch and in the playoffs. He's my favorite guy to take right now. I'm just waiting on everyone because I got Hicks just sitting in my queue, hidden at the end there. If people are looking at last year's stats, they're not going to see it because they're not going to see that, he crushed at the end when he finally got playing time. I think Jaden Hicks is absolutely the man. I love him as a sleeper. I think he's going to have a huge year. I really do.
All right, folks, before we get out of here, let me tell you more about the Shoot the Gap Listener League. It's over at ESPN. The ESPN app has actually gone through a major transformation. You can actually do mock drafts from your category specialized to your actual league here. What we're doing here, it's all IDP. 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends, 3 linebackers, 2 cornerbacks, 2 safeties, and 2 IDP flexes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bench spots and 2 IR spots. Literally, it's anarchy. The scoring is anarchy. It is crazy. Big play heavy, tackle heavy, just all the points. You like fantasy points? You're going to get all the points here. And we'll, of course, be posting it, the link to this league as we're getting closer to the draft date, which I want to say it's after the Fantasy Football Expo. So just keep that in mind. Join in, have some fun, get your feet wet, learn more about these positions, and just have fun with it, folks. Everybody who joined the Fantasy and Frames Shoot the Gap Listener League last year had a blast. We gave away a trophy smack or a Dynasty Deck trophy, a plaque. So that's going to be coming your way. Courtesy of Fantasy and Frames. So we got you covered there. But yeah, that's going to do it here for us this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about the NFC South. So for Steve, for JT, I'm Jorge. We will see you all next week.